Okay, students, this is your video lecture and study strategies for Chapter 1, Essential Science. So I am going to share my screen. So here we go. This is Essential Science. You have watched a video already that gave you a general overview. We are going to open the book up to the first unit, Fundamentals, Chapter 1. And I am going to close down the table of contents. And we're going to go through with study strategies and highlights and support on where to narrow down and work on more levels of retention, and then how to broaden out and have more of a general awareness and just a recognition of understanding. So here we go. The first part of this is going to be anatomy and physiology, characteristics of life, organization of the structure. Remember, these are little segments within the chapter. And then what is biological plausibility, clinical plausibility, and evidence-informed practice. So here are our chapter objectives. You're going to want to be able to define and understand the difference between and the interaction of anatomy and physiology. So anatomy is the parts, physiology is how they function together. You can have anatomy in a cadaver dissection, but you can't have physiology. You can only have physiology when something is considered alive. So that's the next objective, which is to describe characteristics of life, and then list and discuss the levels of organization of the body. And then each of these areas will be expanded in individual chapters as we go forward. And then we want to make sure that we start from the very beginning to understand what biological plausibility is, evidence-informed practice, etc. So in general, when we think about our massage application to support health and well-being, one of the things we're looking for is what is normal function? And then if normal function isn't optimal, what do we do? What can we do with massage that would mimic the normal function and support a more optimal function? So here are your key terms. And there's a pronunciation key as you go down through. And recall that you can have this book read to you. You can, over here, hit these 3 buttons and get the read to you feature going, and you can slow it down or increase the speed. It may not, however, pronounce, this pronunciation key. It might not do an excellent job on that, but you want to try. You want to try to pronounce these words. So atrophy, cell. Now, some of them that are easy, like basement membrane, there wouldn't be a pronunciation key for. So these are the words that you're going to want to have a working knowledge of. Not memorization, recognition. Here is that learning how to learn feature that's going to show up in every chapter. This one is more succinct or more expanded, and it helps you set up a study strategy. In particular, breaking things up into a 15-minute to 30-minute study period. So your brain is gonna shut down after 15 minutes or so of reading. You need to do something else. You need to do one of the activities or get up and move around or something. So this is gonna lay this out to you, for you. You've got a 30-minute period, a 60-minute period, and a 90-minute period. Pay attention to these. They will really help you use the textbook to your greatest advantage. At the very beginning, the very first box in the textbook is what is critical thinking, the scientific method, and clinical reasoning. So critical thinking is an overarching process of looking at multiple factors, collecting data, and making an effort to sort through information to make a valid a decision. The scientific method is a form of critical thinking. And then clinical reasoning is how you would take the information and move it and use it with an individual client in professional practice. So here are the pieces that are involved, and these show up throughout the book. So, and they are also part of the assessment process that we use for therapeutic massage. So we make observations, develop a research question. What do I want to know? What do I want to solve? Research the topic, and you will do literature research. You probably won't do scientific research, but you will use the websites I specifically recommend, Medline Plus and PubMed, to gather information. And then you're gonna start to develop what you've identified into a care plan for an individual client that will meet the goal that they're after. So you're going to work on this idea: if I do X, then Y will happen. If I do a general protocol massage in 50 minutes, the client will relax. So then you're going to do a little bit more refining on that. And in this example, giving of the massage is your actual experiment. You know, did what you think was going to happen actually happen or not? And then you're going to record and analyze this. This would be your charting, your documentation, client files, and you're going to analyze it. Did what I decide to do make a difference or not? What do I need to change? What would I do next time? And that becomes how you would, with a client, develop the next session for the massage. So that's what that is. And we start that at the very beginning, and that'll be a theme that runs through the entire book, as well as the fundamentals book. So understanding overall anatomy and physiology and characteristics of life give us a platform of terminology and concept. So I already mentioned anatomy is the parts and physiology is the life functions. So pay attention to each of these subsection objectives, and you'll notice here that we're going to overlap into a cultural practice and compare and contrast how critical thinking works and how the language works in traditional Chinese medicine theory, and with the main approach in this textbook, which is more of a Western theory of structure and function. So then we go about doing that. These are the definitions. Now, let's look at regional anatomy here for an example. In a multiple choice question, they might say, it might be something like, the massage therapist focuses on the shoulder girdle area during the massage session for the client. When they look up for additional information, which type of anatomy study would they be after? And in that situation, the definition that fits best here is regional anatomy, the study of all the structures of a particular area. So another example here would be with gross anatomy. If you were going to do a postural analysis looking for symmetry, these are things that you can see. You can identify the various bony landmarks, and how sometimes you can see through the skin how the muscles are designed and relate to each other. That would be more of a gross anatomy. And if you were looking at the difference between working with an adolescent or with somebody who is older and the changes that might occur, that would be developmental anatomy. So you can see what we've got going here. All right. Physiology is how things work together. And then you've got systemic. So each system has a physiology, but they're all interconnected. And then when they if something breaks down, or if there is a disease or a condition, then that is going to be something that has to do with physiology, and the breakdown or the condition would be then pathophysiology. So a big concept that we're always looking at is homeostasis, a dynamic steady state, because we're always responding to our external and internal world. And then here is our overlap here with yin and yang, and beginning to understand this concept of balance, which is above and below, and hollow or solid. And our body works that way. If there's a stimulus that turns up a function, there is also something that turns it down. And homeostasis is that dynamic balance between all of that. Here are your characteristics of life and a practical application. Make sure you read these. They kind of put the material into context. And a little mentoring tip here. This one right here says, learning a new language is confusing. So give yourself some grace around this. You can find a lot of anatomy and physiology lectures on YouTube. For your primary classes each month, I will give you study videos to take a look at from YouTube. And the important part here is repetition, repetition, repetition. So here's your little review, what you have learned. And this is nice to come back to once in a while, to just keep this content fresh in your mind. Now we're going to get into a quick overview of the body structure. This pretty much speaks for itself. You do not have to memorize. You do not have to memorize that the element symbol is an O for oxygen, or any. You don't have to do that, but have an idea of what these elements are and how they combine together. But you don't have to memorize any of this. Same with these chemical bonds. You're going to want to have an idea of how the body responds, and a lot of its adaptation in the physiology has to do with changing in the various chemicals and the proteins bending and twirling and twisting and breaking bonds and creating bonds. Nice little box here that steps away, gives you a little bit more on DNA and RNA, and we hear about that a lot in vaccine development, RNA vaccines, or we uh, look at it in science study on how they might gene edit to treat a certain pathology. So that's what's in this little box. And then you can click on any of these things that are blue here. Here's a figure that just sort of shows you how the pieces go together. And research shows that the stimulus we provide on the surface of the body actually is translated down through the bigger structures all the way into the molecular idea, and it affects things like mitochondria and tissue division, cellular division. Metabolism is a life function. It's a characteristic of life, as is the influence of acidity and alkalinity. Again, you don't have to memorize this, but being aware helps you put this content into perspective. Same with inorganic and organic compounds, proteins, etc. So here we give you the kind of a practical application of why we would even need to know any of this. Now we're going to look at the structures as we go down. We start at the organelle, which are the little organs of a cell. And then we talk about those different things and what they do. So our base structure is a cell, but cells are made up of other components. Each of them has a function, just like our bones and joints and nervous system. Then the next thing is cells come together, like cells come together and function as a unit, which creates a tissue level. And then those tissues, we have the epithelial tissues, which are our coverings, so skin, for an example, our mucous membranes. Then we have connective tissues, which are one of the most abundant tissues in our body, and it pulls everything together. It gives us our shape and our form. It responds to stress. It does all kinds of stuff. And you might have heard about massage approaches that are called myofascial release or connective tissue approaches or whatever. And this is the target tissue that those methods attempt to interface with. You're going to want to have an idea of what these are. And then here's a fun little picture. And then here's the fascia. You'll hear us use that. It's a type of connective tissue, but it forms in sheets and it connects parts of the body together. So there's a fascial connection called the lumbar dorsal fascia that connects the left hip to the right shoulder and vice versa. And the body operates in coordinated units as that are based on some of these fascial scaffolds or lines. There's different names for this. Then we have muscle tissue, and there's 3 different types of muscle tissue. And we're going to concentrate on the skeletal muscle in chapter 9. And we have nervous tissue. And then these tissues come together and cooperate to create an organ or an organ structure. So an organ would be the heart. So it's got all of these tissues in it. And then we go through the system, how the heart coordinates with the blood vessels, and there's a connection even with the lymphatic system. And so it's these systems that really start to coalesce and are part of what we consider our characteristics of life and how they function. But they're all interconnected. You can't deal with the endocrine system without dealing with the nervous system, without dealing with the integumentary system. That everything is so interconnected. And then we get to this idea of the body as a whole and review what you've learned. This segment is not typical in a standardized anatomy and physiology book, but it is supportive of the idea of critical thinking and how we are going to adapt to each client as we provide massage for them. So it defines each of these. And then a big thing right now in healthcare that spans health and wellness all the way to medical treatment of pathology is evidence-informed practice. And this is where the sciences overlap into the practice. And so as we've studied massage more, things that we thought were true 20 years ago, we know are not true now. So there's an ongoing shift and change. One, for example, is that massage therapy removes lactic acid from the body, and it doesn't. That's a whole different pathway, that you have to drink a lot of water to flush the toxins. Toxins are metabolized through another system than with the water. Water then maybe become a medium. Water is important, but the detoxification process happens through multiple systems: the liver, the kidneys, the cardiovascular system. It's all involved with that. One of the things that I think is really important as we look at this is the relationship between correlation and causation. Just because two things happen at the same time does not mean that one caused the other. So a lot of people will say, well, I worked on a client and did massage, and they slept really better afterwards. And the massage could have been a causation of that, but it just as easily could have just been that the client settled down a little bit, and that is why they got a good night's sleep. So it was an indirect effect, rather than a direct effect. So the example here is when I wash my car, it rains. Washing the car and a rainstorm can happen at the same time. That's the correlation. However, washing the car did not make it rain, nor did a rainy day make me wash my car. And unfortunately, a lot of the claims made for massage benefit are in that correlation, anecdotal type of statement rather than with an evidence-informed statement. So we'll learn more about that. So this is a little bit more on whether there is an accurate cause and effect relationship. and what researchers and theorists have outlined that would specifically lead to correlation or to causation. And then we can review this information. Chapter summary. And now here's your critical thinking, clinical reasoning scenario. It's gonna give you a little story, and then it's gonna give you guidance on how to do a literature search and come up with a biologically plausible approach. So here's the little story. And this person happens to be diabetic. And then here's where it's going to lead you, Medline Plus, to learn about, this is an information database. It helps you learn about something. So I've given you the search terms, prediabetes, diabetes, and then also search terms, massage, therapeutic massage, massage therapy. And then even better, you would go massage, therapeutic massage and pre-diabetes, or massage therapy and diabetes. And then that'll connect, the search engine will connect the two. And then this little question here, how does the vocabulary help you understand a client's physical problems? How do the types of anatomic study, your anatomy study, contribute to your understanding of the client? So here's your surface anatomy, your gross anatomy. With diabetes, I would certainly want to take a look at systemic anatomy. And then how is this information categorized into the main areas of physiological study? So we've got systems anatomy, systems physiology, and then the disease process, which is the pathophysiology. And then there is which of the characteristics of life are most affected by the treatment recommendations for prediabetes? And these are just, this is a learning strategy to help you connect dots in your brain to move things to long-term memory. There is no definitive right or wrong here. And then how and what various levels of organization are being affected. Consider the benefits of massage to the client up to now. How is cause and effect relationship involved? And how much you adapt. Now, this is the massage to the application if somebody's got prediabetes. You're right in the beginning. You're in the very beginning of your massage education. So these are really going to be possibilities, educated guesses, that sort of thing. But the intention is for you to start the process of critical thinking and clinical reasoning. So in this chapter, chapter 1, I go through and actually answer these questions for you. For the rest of the chapters, there will be a link on your Evolve site that will take you to the author's response to these. The other thing we have at the end of each chapter, and for this chapter, is the multiple choice questions for discussion and review. These are great for individual study groups where the 2 or 3 of you can even meet on Zoom. They're used to work with reinforcing terminology. And you're going to want to, if you don't know the name, what each one of these things mean, you can look them up in the textbook. There is a search feature here. Let me show you how that works. Let me pick up the term atrophy. I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to go over here, and you see that little magnifying glass there. I'm going to hit that. I'm going to paste that little thing in there. And I'm going to hit search. And it's going to take me to all the places that that term is used. So the definition right here is a decrease in the size of a body part. Okay, I get it. I might want to know more about what happens with muscle cells. So I can click on this and it'll take me right to that place in the textbook. So that's really helpful. If you don't know what one of these words mean, that's a very easy way for you to look it up in the book. Okay, then the other thing it's going to ask you to do is learn to write your own test questions. See if you can write 3 or more, combine them together with some fellow classmates and make yourself a little quiz. So there's, a lot of ways that you can use these questions to help you reinforce the information in the chapter. So on your Evolve site, there will be a link for chapter 1 that talks to you about your chapter test. And these are longer. If we look at this one, I'll open it up real quick. You'll see that it's, I think this one was like 108 questions. You want to work your way through this. And it's got this idea of repetition, repetition, repetition. And when you do these questions, you want to know why the right answer is right and why the wrong answer is wrong. And that you'll submit, or you can do a few and then save the answers and come back. So that's what that question looks like. And that's what goes into the grade book. So that would be the next thing you would do. And then the last thing, or you can even do I'm going to show you the online course. You can actually even do that first. Then you're going to go to the online course. In the first video watched, I showed you that it's orange. It was built around the 4th edition, but there's a lot of information here. And so you've worked on chapter 1 for essential science, and here's the module 1 that is going to also be part of that content. So you click on that, and what you will see is right here, just like in the chapter tests on Evolve, there will be a link where you go right to it, and that will go to a grade book for me. And then here's the actual lesson, and it's going to reinforce and cover the information, but in a different way. So another form of novel repetition, the information we just looked at in the textbook. So there you go. The body as a whole, chemical level, organs, systems, and you just down here, you just keep clicking next and it'll move through for you. And there's some, there's embedded funnies, and I had to keep myself entertained while I was doing some of these things. So you see something here, you can click on it and it'll make it larger. Hit next. You can, if you see something blue here and you click on it, it'll take you outside of the course. The link may or may not work. It doesn't matter. There's enough repetition so that you're going to get the information. Gray's Anatomy is available in the public domain, and there's, hopefully this link will work to take you out to it, from 1918. And on you go with it. And it just expands different information, takes you to different resources and sources. Some of them will work, some of them won't. And so you're going to do this as well. So let me stop the share. So you've got the Essential Science textbook, and you've got the orange online course that goes with it. Chapter 1 goes with module 1. The textbook that goes into the grade book is the chapter test. It's long. It's over, usually they're over 100 questions. That link will be right there for you in your Evolve site. Also on your Evolve site, you may find those that 10-minute quiz, that licensing review, that little quiz. You can do that or not. You will also find that quick content review. You can do that. That's excellent, but that's not what's graded. Reading the quick content review and question form, the answer part of it will act as a summary of the chapter. But it is the chapter test, the big long one, that goes into the grade book. Then you've got the orange online course, and you will go through that. And it has a 25 question exam that you will do. And it'll show right up when you open it up and Evolve. There will be a spot that you will click and it will come up. So that is your first chapter study process for Essential Science. Ta-da!